Welcome to Sales and Marketing Talk Show. Today we are discussing how to use videos in sales, and I have Tyler Lessard from Vidyard joining me. Welcome, Tyler.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. It is great to be here to talk about my favorite topic, of course, video.
It's a great topic, and as a sales guy, I personally love to use videos in sales. I think I I use them more than like typical salespersons do. So super happy to learn new tricks for me as well, and then a lot of value for people who are thinking that, hey, I probably should be doing videos but haven't started that one yet. So getting a lot of tips out there. But one thing that I kind of always love to start with is the question, why? Like as a salesperson or sales leader, why you should be like interested in using videos in sales at all?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And, starting maybe in the spirit of, the theme of this show in both marketing and sales, I'm gonna start with the marketer's lens on it, and then use that as a reason to inspire everybody on the sales side. And as a marketer myself, over the years, we've seen this evolution in terms of how it is we're messaging to our audiences, the ways that we're connecting with them. And of course, we've gone well past just communicating with our audiences with the written word and bullet points and static content. And most of us as brands are now pushing out, multimedia content, right? Audio and podcasts. We're doing live streams like we're on right now. And then other forms of course, video content, not just as a way to promote our brands and advertise or things like that, but more importantly, as a way to educate our audiences, to more clearly explain different ideas, to visually explain things, and then also to create more emotional connections to our brand. Because it's hard for somebody somebody who's interacting in a digital only way with your company, if they're just reading static content and looking at things, it's hard to get an emotional connection. But as soon as they start to, feel something, because video gives you that ability to create emotional resonance, to make them laugh, to inspire them, to motivate them, to show real people, and create that kind of empathy. Those are all sort of powers of video. And as marketers, we've known that for a long time. For sales teams, many of them, of course, are now using Zoom for live video calls. But the tools have become available over the last few years, freely available, that anybody can use, to hit the record button, record your webcam, record your screen share, and immediately send over a video via email to a prospect or to a customer, or send it over via LinkedIn. And as it became easy to do and the tools were made available, we saw folks like yourself, right? Some of the leading edge sales people starting to understand, oh, well, instead of just sending the same old text-based email that, it's nice they can skim it, but it doesn't really create a real connection, right? It doesn't give me any face time with them. If I can just record and send a short video, it starts to do that for me. It starts to create familiarity as they're watching me deliver my message. It allows me to show things rather than just tell and even prove to somebody how it is that I might be able to help. And it's become an effective tool all through the sales cycle. So in a lot of cases now, for people that I talk to who are using it, they ask the opposite question: why wouldn't I use videos in my sales process now that it's so easy to do it? And I think that's really the way to be thinking now.
Yeah, and I think there was like super great reasons there, of course. And like one thing that I've been like figuring out, at least I think the market might be a little bit different here in Finland and in the States and in like diverse sectors and so on. But in Finland, I think there's not that many person like doing videos yet. So what do you say that what is the situation like out there? Like how big part of sales people are using videos at all, like at the moment? Where we are with the move from like text-based selling to like video-based selling.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see, because we are so here at Vidyard, we have tools to do this today, and so we get good visibility into what's happening within the market. And while we've seen a huge increase particularly over the last year, as we've all been moved into a truly virtual selling world, we have seen certainly a very large increase in the number of sales reps using video as part of their process. But in the overall grand scheme of things, it's still very, very few globally. right? And I think we do see a little bit more of it in North America than we do in Europe and Asia Pac today. But even in North America, it is still very uncommon for people to get a video from somebody at work or from a salesperson. And so that's actually one of its great superpowers still right now, is that it is very different from just about everything else that your prospects or customers are receiving. And just that novelty factor or that newness of it creates an advantage for people. Because especially as part of your prospecting, when you're reaching out to somebody who you don't yet have a relationship with, and a big part of what you're trying to do when you're prospecting is simply to stand down and get their attention in the first place. Because most prospects you're reaching out to are ignoring your emails, they're not answering the phone, and but then suddenly a video shows up in their LinkedIn or their email, and it looks very different. But it also is a trigger to them that you're willing to put more time and effort into creating a message for them. Their expectation of value goes up because, again, if you've made a video for them, they expect you've got something more important to deliver. They expect you're confident in what you're saying. And it's a chance for them to actually meet you as a real person in, a short 60-second video. So all these things start to work towards your advantage. And again, it's largely because it is still new. The expectation of value is a lot higher with it. And time again, we hear people having higher response rates, higher engagement when they're sharing short videos, whether it be when they're prospecting or through the rest of their sales process.
Yeah, and I can totally agree on that one. And I think like the feedback you get from people when sending videos, I think that's like super great. I would say like maybe 70 to 80% of all the people I'm sending videos, whether it's in like prospecting phase or going through the offer or whatever, they always say, wow, I have never got a video or that. So I think it's super great way to get people's attention from the crowd. But then at the same time, I think there is something same, for example, with LinkedIn. If we go back a couple of years, just sending a message on LinkedIn, it was something like super special. Right. Not a single salesperson was doing. So I think it's super interesting to see what happens with videos in sales. So for example, 5 years from now, I'm quite sure that many salespersons are using those ones. And currently, I think when I send a video, most of the people are watching that one. But what happens when you get 20 of those videos a day? I think decision makers, they don't have the time to check out all the videos. So then there comes another struggle. So it's interesting to see when that will happen.
Yeah. Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I often say that of, 2 or 3 years from now, people will probably be saying, oh, not another video, right? Just like we do with not another, email message or another. A couple of years ago, that things like LinkedIn message felt really special. And part of that was because it wasn't something that salespeople could automate or marketers could automate, right? And so when you got a LinkedIn message, you intrinsically knew that person actually took the time to type it in and hit the send button, right? And with email, we're kind of past that. We feel like at this point, any message that's coming from an external brand or a marketer or a salesperson, we just expect that it's something that has been automated. And so therefore our expectation of value goes way down and we tend to ignore it. And so it's interesting and almost a sad thing for the state of the sales world that, the bar is now set so low that it's just even sending messages that aren't automated gives you an advantage over the competition. And the neat thing with video is that, and I'll answer one of the questions that came in here was, there was a question about, well, what about companies who block media from being sent or with firewalls and things like that? And what we're seeing people do now with tools like a Vidyard is when you make your video, it drops the thumbnail image for your video, which you can customize, and a hyperlink, and the image is also hyperlinked. So when they click on it, it launches a page and the video gets watched. And so you're not actually attaching the video file. That's really important because that will get blocked. It's just like any other email you're sending with an image or a hyperlink. But the power of that also is that the thumbnail image that gets embedded in the email, again, it's like a picture's worth 1,000 words. And when they see your actual face, right, in that email, it stands out, it's different. And if there's something that you can do visually to cue to them that I did make this video just for you, right? For example, I've got my little whiteboard over here. I might, this is the oldest trick in the book when sending a video to somebody. I might just have some kind of message that, I'll say, hi Sam, right? Like this will be the thumbnail image of my video. So immediately that I really did make this just for you. And all those doubts of this was an automated message or whatnot go out of your mind, and you're more likely to click into it. There's lots of other things that you can do to make sure that thumbnail image is personalized for them, which again, gets them to lean in. And again, just that very small thing of making somebody feel like you took the time to actually understand them, craft a custom message, even that boosts your response rates.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the whiteboard example. I have a whiteboard here in my office as well,
Yeah.
using that one. And for example, like when inviting, for example, people to this show, if I have, for example, their book in my bookshelf, I'm always like holding that one up in the start of the video, and that really grabs the attention and works well. And I think like when we are talking about like using videos in sales, there are like many different parts where you can utilize those ones. But maybe to start with, because I think this is one of the biggest struggle that salespersons are having, is like, where do I find new potential clients? And when I find them, how do I get them attention, get the first meeting out of there? And I really think that like using videos on that one is like super good. And we already shared like some examples over there, that, hey, having the whiteboard there. But what do you think? What are like the best practices when starting to like prospect for potential clients and using videos there?
Yeah, and these ideas apply both for if you're outbound prospecting or if you are responding to an inbound lead or somebody that has shown some level of interest. In either case, your goal is to, number one, get their attention, number two, get them to actually engage in your message. And of course, number three, to get them to act on it and take that next step, whether it be respond to you, whether it be to start a conversation or to book a meeting. And again, there's lots of different ways in which sending a short video can have a very material impact on that. Again, the real magic is getting them to watch in the first place. Once you get them to hit that play button, like that's the magic, because now they're going to get to see you, they're going to get to hear you, they're going to create some degree of a personal connection and rapport. And even if they don't respond to that video, they're more likely to remember you as you continue through your sequencing or your outreach, because they've now actually seen you and heard you. So some things to think about when you're prospecting or following up on an inbound lead is, as we alluded to, making a video where you can have a thumbnail image that is personalized to them to get them to lean in and want to click play. We gave a couple great examples there of that's why a whiteboard is really easy, because you can wipe off the message, write a new one, hold it up. Some people will use apps on their phone where they'll hold it up and there'll be like a message with their name on it. There's other things that you can do with a screen share video. So tools like Vidyard allow you to record your browser window or your full screen along with your camera on the screen as well. So what we've seen a lot of people do is, really simple things like, we'll bring up their website on your screen behind you, or bring up their LinkedIn profile, or an article that they shared or commented on, or something that they would, again, visually recognize that is relevant to them, and use it as a transition into the conversation you want to have. So all sorts of things like that you can do as a way to maximize your chance of getting that attention and getting that click into that video. And then my last tip on prospecting with video is to please keep it short. 30 to 90 seconds is what you want to shoot for. 60 seconds is great. If you go too much over 60 seconds, for somebody who hasn't yet met you, you're probably going to lose them, and they may not even watch because they'll think, oh, it's too long. So try to keep it short, 30 to 60 or 30 to 90 seconds.
Yeah, I personally also love to use the LinkedIn thing and the website of their, because like if you get a video and you see the thumbnail picture and there is like your own LinkedIn profile, and then there's some text that, hey, I stalked your LinkedIn, I got a few ideas, then you are like, I must know what those are. So it's like working super well. But like one thing that I've actually been like personally not struggling, but thinking what is their like best practice? Like if we think about like what the goal of the first video should be, like when we are talking about like outreach. I think there is like a couple of different ways. One thing that people do, and I know you can do it with Vidyard as well, is like have the video, and like in the end of the video there is, for example, your HubSpot calendar link that you can book a time directly. There's like that option. There is option to just like open up the discussion, ask some question, not for the time. So what do you think? What is the best practice there? Directly go to the like. Have some time from the calendar, or like just open up the discussion? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is consistent with how you would normally prospect, even if you're not using video. And my preference, and what I see a lot of reps gravitating towards today, is that early in your outreach, your focus is to create a conversation. It's not to book a meeting. And I really encourage people to think about that methodology. I know as somebody who gets prospected 20 times a day, literally 20 times a day, I'm getting emails and LinkedIn messages. And, you know, as soon as I feel like I can tell, okay, this is a salesperson who wants to talk to me, I always look to the bottom of the message. And if it says, can I have 15 minutes on your calendar? I don't even read the rest of the email, right? And it's because it's kind of the oldest tactic in the book, and our most valuable and precious commodity is time. And asking for somebody for time, especially when, you know, that hasn't even been nurtured to the point where they really understand what it is you offer, I think is a problem for sales reps today. So I would start with early on trying to create a conversation as my output from those early messages and those early videos. And, you know, there's lots of different ways to do that, by having your call to action being more of an open-ended question, by, you know, asking them if this is an area of interest, asking them if they would be open to hearing more. Or one of the things I like to do when I send a video is I'll end it by saying, would it be okay if I sent you another video to explain this a little bit further, or to show you how this works, or to introduce you to another company who's doing this today successfully? And so by saying, you know, would it be okay if I sent you another video, I'm making it very easy for them to simply say yes, right? But by doing so, they now are committing to that next transaction. And when I do see that, you know, yes, or sure, send me another video, then you can bet I'm making one just for them. And if I'm sharing a story of another customer, right, I'll bring up that customer image on my screen and I'll say, thanks so much for permission to come back to your inbox. I wanted to explain how this company up here has solved this problem, and the way they're doing it is this. And now that person is going to feel more obligated to watch my video because they said, sure, send it to me. And I think that works so much better than always trying to book that meeting from day one.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And earlier you mentioned that like the first video should be something between 30 to 90 seconds. But what do you think in those kind of cases? Because I feel like if they give you permission to do another video, maybe the second one can be a little bit longer.
I think you're right. I think it's, and that is kind of the trigger point in terms of how deep or long you want to go in your videos, is have they responded and demonstrated, you know, actual interest. So what I see a lot of salespeople doing is using 2 videos throughout their typical sequence if they have, you know, before they've actually gotten a response. So early on, usually between days, you know, 1 to 5 of your outreach, they'll send a short video. It will often either be a webcam style video, or it'll be a screen share with their camera bigger as well, so that they can create that familiarity and introduce themselves a little bit and set the stage. But then if they still haven't heard back, you know, days 10 to 12, then they might send a second video that might now be a screen share where they're talking about something differently, you know, through a different lens. Maybe they're, again, sharing a quick anecdote about a customer who's seen success. And those, again, will be that 30 to 90 seconds. However, if they do respond back and say, you know, yeah, sure, this sounds interesting, can you share some more? Then absolutely, now you start to get a little bit more liberty to create, you know, some more content. You still want to try to keep it no more than 2 to 3 minutes maximum. It can be very easy to you know, go on and make a 5-minute video showing your product and features, but we're still not quite at that point, and you don't want to oversaturate them.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing you mentioned there, that what you do, that if you get a sales email and there is like, can I have 15 minutes of your time, or there is a calendar link, I think it's great learning that if you are sending the video, like the first goal is to get the people or the person to open that one. So I think in that case, if there's like video and like under that one, you directly see that, hey, there's a calendar link, that might affect on the thing that the person is never even going to watch the video.
Yeah, and I think it's perfectly fine to have your sort of passive calendar link or a book a meeting link, in the email and as part of the sharing page for your video. And so I think it's always good to have it there, that if that person goes, actually, I'd love to chat with this person, they can quickly schedule a meeting. But I think the active ask, particularly early on, should be around, is this of interest? Would you be interested in discussing more? Can I share a little bit more? So I think that's a great approach for sales reps, is still have that option for them to be able to see that link to say, book some time with me, but make your active ask something that's more conversational and more interest-based.
Yeah, sounds good. But then, like after getting the first meeting with the potential client, and of course it depends on your like sales model if you even like have the meeting in place. But if there is one, like what are the other ways in using videos in your like sales cycle?
Yeah, we see lots of different interesting ways in which sales reps are using videos throughout the rest of the cycle. I'll give you a few specific examples and then some general tips. But one example we see is often after a meeting, many of us will send a post-meeting kind of recap email today, right? Where we'll send the email afterwards saying, thanks so much for joining. Here's a link to the recording of it, which nobody's ever going to watch, but here's the link anyways. And here are some of the highlights from the call. Please forward it around to anybody who wasn't able to make it, and so on. And I really encourage you to do that through a video instead of just a text-based email for a couple of reasons. One is, by doing it through a video, it actually gives you the opportunity to further explain or show some things that, again, maybe came out of the call or you didn't get a chance to discuss in the call. So for example, if they expressed interest in some specific capability, you don't want to do a full demo necessarily, but it's your chance to maybe even quickly bring it up and go, hey, I wanted to quickly show you how this one thing actually works because it seemed of a lot of interest to you. We'll dive deeper into it on the demo, but I just wanted to quickly show you to whet your appetite, right? So you can show them a couple things. But more importantly is that if and when they send that follow-up around to other people who didn't make the meeting, they now get a chance when they click play to see you, to hear you, to meet you, even though they weren't on that first call. And so now, again, you're building familiarity with more than just your main point of contact, with any others who you may know or may not even know are going to be involved in the decision process, perhaps even folks behind the scenes if they forward it around to people on their team. So I think that's a really powerful thing. And these short recorded videos give us that chance for other people to actually get to know us and meet us and get to trust us as well. So that's one really interesting point. And then as you move through, there's some other examples like recording short walkthroughs or demonstrations of your capabilities and your products or services. And again, many of us will have maybe off-the-shelf content that we can share, but by quickly recording them a custom video to walk through it yourself, again, it allows you to contextualize it for them. It allows you to be the messenger of the information. And again, same idea as the last one. It allows all of those people to actually meet you, see you, and get to trust you as a salesperson, even if they're not joining a live demo where you may be walking through these things in more detail. So there's those sorts of touch points. And the last one I'll recommend is during the proposal stage. So if you are sending over a sales proposal, even if you've had a call to walk through it with your champion, very similar to that post-meeting video, is that instead of just sending the proposal over with a link or an attachment, include a video where you can walk through some of the highlights as if you were doing a quick summary of it, in a live meeting room to a team of stakeholders. You don't have to go through it in all the detail. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute long review, but spend a few minutes to go through, hit the high points, address anything that may be a potential objection, and remind them of the reasons why some of those line items are in there. as we discussed in our prep calls, one of your biggest challenges is this, and that's why we're recommending option A here. And this services line item is because, as we discussed, you're going to need some support with implementation due to lack of resources, and we're here to help, right? So you can, again, articulate it in a way that when it gets forwarded around for signature, those people can all get the added context, and you're not relying on your champion to explain it. They can hit the play button, they can hear you deliver the message. And I hear lots of sales reps who are doing that, who have felt it's really changed the way that they close out deals in a much more positive way.
Yeah, great actionable tips there, and I think I'm personally using most of those ones, and I can really say that they are working like really well. But then on the other side, I think we've been discussing a lot on the things that you should be doing, but of course the other side is what are the things that you you shouldn't be doing. And one thing, before going to your examples on those ones, I would love to ask, because I'm a fan of using videos in sales. When there is too much of videos, because if there is a video in all the case, there is video on prospecting, then a video before the discovery meeting, video after the discovery meeting, video on the proposal, video is there a limit when it goes a little bit too much of videos?
Yeah, I think you have to balance it for sure, and be conscious and respectful of your audience's time. And there's certainly moments where things that are in short emails that are easily skimmable and things like that, are going to be a better experience for them than requiring them to hit the play button and listen to you deliver your message. And in some cases, particularly once you're in that dialogue, even when you are sending a short video, you may still want to highlight some of the key points in the text of the email for those cases where they may just want to skim it. But still giving them that option to be able to watch and hear you deliver it if that's their preference. So I think you do need to be mindful of that for sure. But it's also a good reminder of, again, being respectful of their time and trying to make sure you're delivering the most valuable information in these videos, and you're not using them necessarily as a replacement for live calls, and you're not sending a 30-minute video where you're doing a whole presentation, but that you're using it, for high value to really get those important points out there, and using it at times where deeper explanation may be required, or where there, again, is something that they may need to forward it around to others who need to hear you deliver that message. So I think be thoughtful about that. And yeah, always have that in the mindset of, okay, I think I should make a video here, but how can a video deliver this message in a way that's better and more valuable to them than just writing it out in text? And if you can't think of a way, if you can say, you know what, it's just as valuable and just as impactful if I just write it in text, then do it in text, right? But often you'll go, oh yeah, actually I can show them in a video, or I can explain this more clearly. Then those are great moments to say, yep, I'm going to send a video. Yeah.
Great ideas. What about other things? What are the don't things of using videos for sales?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to remind people of is the idea of, it's not about perfection, it's about connection. Okay, so say it with me, everybody. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. Don't try to be perfect in your videos. It will absolutely ruin your love of making these kinds of videos, because you're going to retake, and you're going to be sitting here an hour later trying to send one minute video to a customer. So don't worry about being perfect. The great thing that's happened this past year is that everybody has been exposed to Zoom calls, to people in their homes, to dogs in the background. And, I think people actually, appreciate this kind of level of authenticity and sort of humanity that's been brought into a lot of the business world. So again, lean into that. Don't feel like it has to be perfect. Don't feel that, you have to nail the message exactly through a script, and focus in on just being yourself, being authentic, trying to connect with them in a real way, just as if you were sitting down at a coffee shop to have a conversation with them. And I think that's a really big piece of it to be successful with video right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And personally, I think I've been using videos in sales for 3 years now. Yeah. So you of course, you learn super much when doing that one. But typically now, every now and then I struggle with the words coming out of my mouth. And then I'm no, I'm not doing a new one. I will laugh to myself and just continue. And I think it's great for a person who's getting the video as well, like showing that, hey, that's a real person, and they would be super authentic. So I think it's like great tip, not to be perfect, be yourself and get better every time.
Yep.
Great. But hey, then lastly, I have this tradition to ask a question from you by my previous guest, and then you have the chance to ask the question to my next guest. And on the latest episode, I have Rand Fiskin joining me. And Rand is using a lot of videos in his sales and marketing. He had used Vidyard earlier on as well. And the question was that what are the top platforms where you have gained traction with videos? And I think we have discussed here a bit, like, for example, how to use videos in email, how to use videos on LinkedIn, but would love to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer depends a little bit on whether you look at it as a salesperson or from a marketing and brand perspective. So from a sales perspective, definitely email as a one-to-one way to reach out to people is often the easiest and most obvious way to send a video to somebody. Second, for sure, would be LinkedIn. And being able to send a video in a LinkedIn message to somebody that you've connected with. One of the really nice things actually about Vidyard as a tool is once you have the Chrome extension installed, which is free. So all of you listening, you can just sign up for Vidyard and start trying these things, is that you can record and send a video directly via your email app. But we also plug right into LinkedIn as part of our Chrome extension. So right inside of the LinkedIn messaging, you'll actually see the little Vidyard button. So when you send a message to somebody, you can just click the Vidyard button, record a video, and then send it directly via LinkedIn. So that we've seen also to be a very successful channel or platform for sending videos. Those are the two most common when you talk about one-to-one delivery. But we do also see, some reps, depending on the culture and their audience, using direct messages on Instagram, and they're connecting with customers and using that as a messaging platform. And maybe even TikTok if it happens to be, your cup of tea. So just be thoughtful about that. The important thing here is that video itself isn't its own channel or platform, right? It is the way to deliver a message through any of the means you may be communicating with your customer today. And again, whether or not the platform itself supports making a video, with a tool like a Vidyard, you can record the video, you get the link to it, you can send that link through anything, even a text message, if that's the way you're communicating with your customers. So that's the way to think about it from a sales perspective. On the marketing side, we see, of course, more and more usage of video on core websites as a way to explain what you do and introduce your value propositions. We're seeing a lot more video usage on social media networks, including LinkedIn, but as well as, of course, YouTube, and even channels like TikTok and Instagram for B2B as well as B2C organizations. So there are lots of different opportunities out there. It's different for every company, what works for them. But you do need to start thinking about not just creating videos and then distributing through those channels, but making videos designed for those channels. Because a video for TikTok is very different from what you might do for LinkedIn, with what you might do for your website, with what you might do for your YouTube channel. And so that's, I think, a big challenge for people. But once you get into this culture of saying and figuring out, oh yeah, I can make videos as easily as I can write an article, then you can start to do these things at scale, and whether you're in sales or marketing.
Yeah. Great comments on that one. And I really think like the big picture there is to, like, of course, understand like what are the channels that you like to use, but what are the channels that your clients are using. And then at the same time, I think it's actually hard in some cases that even though your customers are using, for example, LinkedIn and Instagram, for many people, Instagram might be a little bit like private channel at the moment, and then like LinkedIn more personal and or professional. So it's like very, very hard. And then, for example, WhatsApp, I think that's an like interesting channel. I've tried it every now and then. I decided to stop that one because I got more like negative responses for, hey, this is my personal channel. But I think at the same time you need to try different channels and figure out what is working, what isn't working. And of course the like world is changing a lot as well. So it might be that every B2B salesperson is in Instagram in a year or two sending videos there, but we'll see.
Yep. Yeah. But I think you're right. And the most important point there is, video or not, is figuring out organically, like, what are the right channels or the best channels to be communicating with these different folks. But then once you know what those are, again, be mindful that, you don't necessarily have to be limited to what the traditional type of message is on that platform. Like, again, with email, it doesn't have to be a text-based email. That's just how we grew up. But the tools are there now to be able to record a video, add the thumbnail and the link to an email and send it off, just like a text message, just like in a WhatsApp message. So figure out what works, but then be mindful that, hey, in that channel, I can send text-based content. I could record and send a video. And I might even be able to send audio depending on the channel. So get creative with it. And I think that's a great way, again, to stand out no matter what channel is going to work for your customers.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, then lastly, your question to my next guest. I'm having Neil Patel joining me. And I think Neil really loves to use videos in his marketing in different channels. So what do you think? What I should be asking from Neil?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say I'm extremely humbled and flattered to be between Rand Fishkin and Neil Patel. So thank you for having me as a part of this show. For Neil, I would actually want to ask him for some of his top tips for personal brand building on social media, because you're absolutely right that he uses video and content very, very well to build his personal and his business brand. I think a great organic way. So I'd love to hear his perspective on that for some tips on building, your personal brand on social media.
Yeah, great question, and I think Neil has a lot to say to that one. I have to save a little bit time on that one. We'll be asking
the whole show.
Maybe the whole show. We'll see. We haven't decided a theme yet, so I can